listening to Sorrow by the TheAJSound. It's got over 135,000 plays on YouTube, and AJ has over 450,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Pretty impressive. So AJ's come up to the 13th floor to talk about making Indian pop or I-pop.
We know about K-pop. K-pop's become a massive thing in the world.
Yep.
Spanish music is all over the world.
Right.
But I think, India has so many people and they're all over the place. We've infiltrated every city,
right,
every country, but our music hasn't. So it's like, that's kind of my mission, to bring Indian pop to the mainstream.
Alrighty. And how are you doing so far?
I'm doing okay. I guess today I'm keen to talk about kind of the challenges that's kind of brought about in New Zealand, but also globally.
All right.
And some of the things that I have in mind to tackle those challenges, and they're all kind of innovative. They might sound controversial, but trust me, I'm a nice guy when you get to know me. So you know.
So you were born in Mumbai, but you were raised in New Zealand, right?
Born in Mumbai. It's right here.
Right there.
That's
I
Mumbai.
can see. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay.
Raised in New Zealand since I was 9. Parents brought me here. Amazing life.
Right. And when did you start making music?
Quite late. I started making music in 2013. I started playing the guitar for a couple of people that were around, and one of them turned out to be a Bollywood celebrity.
Okay.
The others have spent time in Bombay, in India, Mumbai, doing music and stuff, and they come back and forth. So that was kind of the inspiration, and of course there were a lot of local artists. Like, we know that music is big in New Zealand and among the people.
Right.
So yeah.
So what kind of unique challenges have you found trying to get your music across to people here in New Zealand?
So I guess, one of the biggest challenge, and I'm keen to get your feedback, like if you guys have thoughts on this, please post and reach out to Marty and stuff. But, one of the biggest challenges I'm noticing is there's a big Indian population, and Indians just one example, right? Like, it's the same with Brazilians, it's the same with Chinese.
Right.
There's a big population, a diverse population in New Zealand. We all know that. It's one of New Zealand's selling points, and we claim to be inclusive.
Right.
However, if you look to mainstream media and the representation of these groups in mainstream commercial media, it's almost zero, Like, classic example is Indians have got like 2 radio stations, Hum FM and Radio Tarana, doing great work.
Right.
And now Hum FM is part of MediaWorks, so it's probably beginning the movement. So people are probably thinking in that direction.
Okay.
But I just think that with 250,000 Indians here, we could do better.
Okay.
We could be on ZM among the K-pops and among the reggaetons, especially when we've got the people here,
Uh-huh. And does it have to be that segmented, or is there a chance of it just breaking into the mainstream and we don't have to think about labels?
We don't have to think about it. Yeah, correct. And that's exactly the thing, right? It shouldn't be like Indian and like Kiwi and all this. It's like, in the next 10 years or 15 years, everyone's going to be everywhere.
Right.
Globalization is happening really quickly, and the internet's kind of sped these things up.
Sure.
So, why are we thinking about it in this way? Why are we thinking diverse? It's like, just accept it and kind of use that as a power.
Okay, all right. So what kind of specific obstacles have you come across in trying to get your music played on the radio or just in front of people here in New Zealand?
Good question. I think, like for me personally, I've been going at it for 3 to 4 years as an official artist. This is my 3rd year actually.
Okay.
And yes, when I started, my music was not as good as my mouth. But, over the last 6 months to a year, it has got to a level where I think it's global chart breaking. And I've tried really hard, for example, just for myself, but even the artists around me, like local Kiwi artists, right?
Okay.
We've tried so hard for funding. We've tried so hard to get our face on radio or like our music heard by people in the commercial scene. And the only way to break through seems to be through the agencies that have the relationships, or through some kind of weird way, like, you run into someone that's influential and they like you.
Yep.
I don't think that's really fair, that's been a major challenge.
But do you think that's a challenge that is unique to you, or that all musicians
all musicians, right? Yeah. All musicians. And if you look at like mental illness, I'm just going to make some links here. We don't have much time, so please ask Marty. Please ask Marty what I mean. It affects not just Indians, it affects like Kiwi artists, right?
Right.
Mental illness is a big thing here.
Yep.
And a lot of people are depressed, a lot of people are stressed out, a lot of people are worried, a lot of people have self-doubt and insecurities. And it's not because the industry is doing everything wrong. Like behind the scenes, the industry could be trying to do something, right?
Right.
But to an artist who's 19 years old, who doesn't have exposure to business, who doesn't have exposure to the financials and how governance works and how slow things move when it comes to these, at a scale of a country, the easiest response is, why is no one listening to my music? My music must be crap, or I must not be worthy, you know?
Right.
So that affects everyone. But with the Indian community, for example, it almost feels to me like, knowing the people around me, it almost feels to me like that insecurity is 10 times or 100 times deeper, because people like me that have come here when I was 9 have unintentionally just been beaten down over the course of our life, right?
Okay.
And if we got time, I can talk about some examples in school where good people that I still talk to today from my high school from my primary school in St. Heliers.
Right.
At the time, we were all kids, right? We don't know better, but these traumas are deep rooted and take time to kind of pull to the surface and understand.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so.
All right. So how is it different? You've also tried to get your music played outside of New Zealand.
Yeah.
So have you found it different and more challenging or less challenging to do that?
It's been amazing. So for example, 3 of my songs, one has 6-point-something million streams.
Which one's that?
Begging.
Begging.
So that was an
Okay.
official remix.
Okay.
But like the EDM scene in Europe, for example, it's huge, right? And again, this is something for New Zealand artists, which I have offered to New Zealand artists as well. And the ones that have taken on, like, trusted me and kind of come on board are doing really well. Like if you look at the Spotify monthly listeners, I'm on 470,000 right now, right?
Okay.
That's quite high for New Zealand.
Right.
Because even you look at 660s and the Drax projects, they're at like just over 1 million or whatever
Right.
it is.
Yep,
So
yep.
in terms of pure numbers and exposure, there's a whole world out there that New Zealand artists can tap into as well. So I don't know, like it just feels like the world is more receptive to things that are not in their own backyard. And that doesn't seem to be a New Zealand problem. Because when I talk to artists in India and Europe and America, they say the same thing. It's like, the shit didn't pop over there first. It had to do
Right.
well overseas before they got heard.
But
So
sometimes that is the thing, you know. It's like there's this. It's almost like the tall poppy syndrome.
that's not a localized New Zealand problem. You know, like I think in most cases, it's like humans, right? We take our families, the people closest to us, for granted the most.
That's true.
Same thing, right? It's
Yep.
like your artists, you won't take care of them. And New Zealand, like this has come up in the media a lot. It's like our artists run away, you know, and then New Zealand tries to claim them back. Like
Right.
that has been said many times about a lot of people.
Okay.
This is the root cause, in my opinion.
All right. Alrighty. So what for you? What do you think the solution is?
So there's a multitude of solutions, right? But like I think, so I'll just give an example of the Indians that I know around me, right? For
Okay.
example, so I've got 2 dancers who are doing fantastically. They're growing at a rate, if you look at their Instagram and their YouTube statistics and things like that, they're growing at a rate faster than any New Zealander is growing at this point. You know, one of them is even more like vision. He's got an even bigger vision. He's kicked off Bargain Me, Sean Thomas. He's kicked off Bargain Me, which is like helping the New Zealand economy and the New Zealand public. Richa has, you know, done dance classes, which she's getting attendance not just by Indians but, you know, locals as well.
Right.
Sophie Gibson, another example.
Right.
You know, really moving out and kind of doing the thing. So, you know, we need to actually scout and pick up these people, I think, you know, like before they kind of split off. And again, like I've left the big name away from this, but Shirley Setia, Danny Mora Girl, 7.5 million followers, Netflix movies, you know, all sorts of things.
Right.
And we do scout people, but it seems to be, and ignore my terminology here, but
Right.
it seems to be just white and Maori people that get noticed and scouted actively.
Right.
Whereas with any other cultures, we seem to have to push 10 times as hard to get noticed, you know?
Right.
Why is that?
Yep.
That's the question. And that's the intention here. It's not to say, you know, whatever. So
Okay. Very good. Now let's talk about some up and coming new music so that we have something that we can
Something.
tell people. So you're working on something for Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day, there'll be 3 songs. We'll talk about one of them today.
Okay.
But there's one for Punjabi people,
All
one
right.
for people that kind of are open to listening to Indian pop and Indian fusion.
Yep.
And one for the single people,
All right.
like me right now. So there's 3 songs coming on Valentine's Day. The one I want to talk to you about is Teri Hasi. So Teri Hasi is like, it's a song that's kind of like a journey where you go to a club, and then I'm sure you guys have seen Bollywood at some point.
Sure.
You know, it's really dramatic. It's like a dramatic version of real life. So you know, like you go to a club, you lock eyes with someone, and there's just intense tension, and the whole story of that song is kind of like moving through that flow till you meet that person. Then you have some doubts, and then you solve those doubts, and then you're like, yo, everything's all good. So Teri Hasi means your smile, and the line is Teri Hasi ne mujhko fasa liya re, which really means your smile got me at the first instance.
Uh-huh.
So yeah,
So So where will people be able to find it? Will they hear it on the radio? Will it be on YouTube, on Spotify? How do we get to it?
So yes, so they will hear it on the radio. So they'll hear it on Hum FM. That's a guarantee. They'll probably hear it on ZM because I have insane drive. They'll probably hear it with John Campbell on TV because Marty's going to help me.
Oh yeah.
That's a guarantee. No, I'm just putting you on the spot. I'm just joking, guys. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying my hardest to get this music out, and whether it happens or not, you know. But you'll definitely hear it on Spotify and on all my channels. So it's TheAJSound.
Right.
And you just Google that or go to Instagram and find me. It'll be all over there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And you're going back to India soon, right?
Yes,
What are you going to do?
I'm doing this same thing. Like, I'm kicking off this movement. It's called Alpha Music, and I'll be back to New Zealand to help the scene whenever I, you know, have the influence and the money to. That's a reality, right?
Right.
But yeah, I'm going to India. I'm taking some local New Zealand artists with me to begin with, and the whole goal of this is to get the Indian pop scene going globally. But obviously, New Zealand being my hometown, and the reason I am like this is New Zealand, right? I've inherited a lot from New Zealand, so I'll be back here and trying to bridge that gap between India and New Zealand and kind of get the two-way comms going and artists in and out.
Right.
When I can do that, I'll start working on other countries and other things. So that's the plan.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
And what other artists, Kiwi artists that are kind of doing what you do, should we look out for? Do you have any
Sophie
names?
Gibson.
Sophie Gibson?
Sophie Gibson. She's amazing, absolutely amazing. Eva Chesto, she's traveling the world right now.
All right.
But she's just fantastic. Jordan Tannen, producer, but also an artist in his own right. He's helped me like so much over the last 3 or 4 years. I wouldn't have got anywhere without him. And then obviously, like, the names that you guys hear on radio and stuff, you guys are pretty freaking good too, right? So like, so yeah, some great artists here, man. Great talent. Mikey George, like, I can just name so many.
Okay.
But
all right. It sounds like you got it going on. You're driven, that's for sure.
Very driven, and I don't even have a car now. I'm just kidding. Because it's hard. It's hard.
All right. I'm trying to get rid of mine, so maybe we make a deal. All right. Well, thanks for swinging by and talking to me, and good luck with the Valentine's Day releases and your Alpha Music thing.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
My pleasure.
It really means a lot. Like,
my pleasure.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
Sweet.